Hello and welcome to SEO Ranking's Do Follow podcast. Here we hold regular talks with SEO and digital marketing experts to discuss hot SEO topics and share actionable insights with the SEO community. So subscribe to stay on top of everything going on in SEO. In today's episode, we're going to talk about SEO audits. More specifically, what digital businesses can do to their websites after they get hit by one of Google's many updates. I'd like to welcome our guest, Olga Zarr, who is an experienced SEO consultant for agency and in-house teams specializing in technical SEO and audits. She's also the founder and CEO of SEOSLY. Welcome, Olga. Great to have you with us.
Hi there. I'm super happy and super honored to be here. So I'm a great fan of SEO Ranking and your podcast, and being a guest here is like super cool. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Great to have you with us. I'd just love to start off with a very first basic question, just to find out how you got into SEO.
So I started around, I would say, 10, maybe 11, 12 years ago. Basically, I always had a lot of interest in computers, in websites. So I used to create websites like 15 years ago or so. So I basically grew up using computers. But then I kind of heard somewhere about earning money online, and I started Googling it. I think, Google was there when I started looking for that term, but I still remember the times of Alta Vista, for example. And then I kind of, this research led me to SEO and to something, to this kind of I would say, program, course called Site Build It, which basically taught you like from scratch how to build a website, how to do keyword research, and how to finally monetize that website. And following that process, I built, tens of different websites. These were quite good times for Google AdSense, so I was able to monetize those websites, even though they weren't like super high quality if we were to look at them right now. But these were mostly my beginnings. So all the work was done by me. I taught everything myself. And now with that experience of building those sites, I basically was able to land my first job in SEO. And from there, I kind of changed jobs, worked on different sides of SEO, and I finally landed as an independent SEO consultant. I have been an independent SEO consultant for a year right now. So this is kind of also an anniversary for me, just in 10 days. Yeah.
We'll send you a congratulations later on, official one as well.
Thanks.
So I wanted to thank you for sharing your experience. And I also know that you're now working the CEO of SEOSLY, and you provide a lot of different educational materials as well, like on consultancy as well. Could you maybe talk about SEOSLY?
Yeah, totally. So there are basically like two types of pronunciation. At first, it was supposed to be SEOSLY because I wanted this to be from seriously. Then kind of more people used to call it SEOSLY, as sly as a fox. So there are basically two ways of pronouncing it. You chose the first one. So this is basically a boutique kind of SEO consultancy where there is me and my partner, and we both do SEO. We both have he has even more experience than I do, and this is like a very customized kind of SEO. I don't like to call myself an SEO agency, but kind of this type of business consultancy, and just two of us, and we rely on a very close contact with our clients. We like close relationships, and we basically work with a few select clients where we do a lot of them or everything for them instead of like jumping from smaller projects, because we believe that if we have more time to work with a given client, then we can simply provide better results, and this is like better experience for us as well. So SEO, we provide all kinds of SEO, and part of like 50% of my time is also like doing the things to share my knowledge and experience, which I do in the form of my blog, a YouTube channel, my podcast, and sometimes I publish, I give out some resources for free, and I have a newsletter where I share the news. So this is kind of how SEOSLY or SEOSLY operates right now.
God, I didn't even consider the SEOSLY option just for the SEOSLY. I think I've seen the SEOSLY app like a bit earlier, like I don't know, maybe How many years ago did you start? Because I have a feeling like it's been around for more than a year. Because you
Yeah,
said,
it's been 2020. Yeah, this is the
yeah,
pandemic
so yeah, it's been
project. Yeah.
around. Yeah, so I've seen you around the internet. Well, I haven't never like thought of like the conversion part, but at least the educational part, I've seen a couple of your videos. So yeah, you're definitely a face in the SEO world that people can get a lot of information on. For,
Thanks.
Thank you for sharing your journey through SEO. And wishing you all the best of luck in continuing it. I'm not ending the podcast, but just like I want to make a switch, dive deeper into today's topic. So we know that Google updates like the recent helpful content updates, spam, 2 core updates that were rolled out like within the last 2 months are really shaking things up for different websites. What would you tell to people who are wondering how Google updates can affect their website's performance?
So generally, it depends on the type of Google update. But if we were to talk about like core updates, they are usually like relevance shifts. Google helpful content updates are kind of similar in a way. They also like target quality of people first content, those types of things. But there are 3 types of scenarios. The first one is you aren't affected at all, which I noticed in the case of websites where I really don't do any tricks, just publish content based on like SEO fundamentals. Those types of websites, usually they are not affected by core updates in any way. There is, of course, the possibility of a very positive effect, which means that Google changed something they value, and now you have this thing present. You are using it to like 100%, and then you can experience a traffic spike, and there can also be a negative outcome where you basically lose traffic because Google is now valuing something you don't have. So this is basically the 3 things that can happen after a Google update. So in a nutshell, that's it. I can talk about that for 5 hours, but maybe.
Yeah, but it's good. At least you gave us the 3 points, like the basic scenarios that can happen. So this is gives us a structure to this conversation a bit more. So okay, so what if we go for the second scenario and you see a traffic drop or rankings decrease, and you know that a Google update was just recently released? What is the first thing you suggest to do to figure out what went wrong for your specific website?
Usually, the first thing is to not do anything, because like even recently, a lot of people have come to me because like there have been so many changes. A lot of people lost traffic, and many people who came to me said, okay, so this changed. Then after that, a day after that, they started changing tons of things. They started changing, I don't know, URLs. Even though the update is still running and there is still a small chance of reversal, because reversals happen sometimes during the update. So for example, you lose at the start and then reversal happens, and at the end you are where you were or you are even higher. So the most important thing is not to do anything, to wait until the update is finished and then take a close strategic approach in really assessing who is now ranking above you and how they differ from your site, what they have that you don't have. And very often it is possible to say with a lot of certainty that, okay, so they definitely have more EEAT, they have more hands-on experience, and you are just, for example, producing AI-created videos showing products that you have never had in your hands, for example. So
basically, you wait it out the storm, and then you see who's ranking on top, and just try to do the research from there. So that's a whole different story once you try to figure out what makes them tick, what makes your competitor rank higher after a specific update from Google. At some point, you definitely have to look at your own site, and I just wondering when that happens, and why it's important to analyze your site, analyze your website, and how exactly do you analyze it? Do you analyze on page, off page, technical? What do you look at? So just basically, it's an open floor. Just tell me. I would love for you to share what you do if you do decide to look at your own site as the source of the problem.
So let me unpack it this way. So when I land new clients, or when someone comes to me because they lost traffic and they need a traffic drop analysis, what I always suggest doing is let's do an SEO audit, the full one meaning that the one that analyzes like the site from all the possible angles, meaning on page, off page, technical, contents, like everything, like the full package. let's do this. And very often when I do these audits, I find a lot of answers to why the site lost traffic. And when I do this together with like traffic drop analysis, I very often like connect the dots very, very quickly, because I get the list of pages that lost, and I then look for like problems on them. Sometimes there are more technical things that can also like help. Of course, technical things usually always, they don't really matter in terms of core updates, but they can often result in very quick wins. If there is a technical issue site-wide and you fix it, you may have very, very nice results like overnight. And you may, for example, think that this is because of the update, because if you do it during the update, but then this wasn't the update because this was simply the tech issue you just resolved. So full audit is something I always start with, and this audit lays the ground for like the SEO strategy for the next 2 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 months, depending on how big the project is and how long I'm going to cooperate with that company, with that person.
How do you actually perform the audit? Do you do it manual? Do you use tools? Because right now, if people haven't heard the word SEO audit right now, they're just thinking it's a manual labor. Is there anything that you do to automate the process?
Yeah, of course. So generally, the way I do SEO audit, of course, I do it with a bunch of SEO tools, and what those tools tell me, I have to analyze with my own human brain and experience and kind of overlay the two. There is also a manual part of the SEO audit. So, for example, when I start the audit, I spend like 30 minutes or so just playing with the website, opening it on my phone, browsing it, clicking, trying to add things to carts, adding some filters in the case of e-commerce, just seeing like how the site works and whether there are some things I instantly see. Very often I can spot tons of things in the like first 3 minutes of browsing the site, because I kind of know where to look for those errors. So there is this manual part, but there is of course this automatic part where I have to crawl the site so that I have all the URLs, all the images extracted, like everything JavaScript executed, so that I can see from the technical side, I can see the size of the site, the status codes, all those types of things. So here, for example, Screaming Frog, Jet Octopus, SiteVault, one of those tools. And there are also other very often tools from Google, like Google PageSpeed Insights for analyzing speed, Google Search Console, which is an awesome tool that also gives me insights into what Google is seeing on the site, whether there are some errors that Google wants me to draw my attention to. So lots of different tools. And there are also automated tools, like even there's a very nice audit tool in SE Ranking, right? So I use one of those tools as well. They give me the list of errors. And I kind of try to combine all of those with my own, again, experience, and see if, because one thing to keep in mind when doing automated audits is they can give you some ideas, they can give you great cues or tips, but you have to always have the content of the site in the back of your mind and know that the fact that the tool is saying this is an issue does not have to mean that this is actually an issue. It is you who have to decide whether this is an issue. So this is the most important part. You have to use those tools intelligently, but still rely on your own human element, human brain. I think AI still is not there. For example, like AI audit tools, there will soon be, I guess, lots of them. At least as of now, you still need your own experience to draw the right conclusions.
Yeah, it's great that you said that you manually look at everything yourself first to have it in the back of your head before digging into the data, so that it actually tells you something and you're not at blank data. If somebody is just starting out and this is the first time they're listening to a podcast about SEO audits, I wanted to sort of help them hit the ground running. If you could just share your experience in terms of what you look at specifically first, if that is even the approach that you have, or do you just follow, for example, the list of errors that Screaming Frogs, for example, just provides you with? Or do you, for example, look at URLs? But I'm just wondering if there's a process that you start off with.
Yeah. So I have my own template. This is like a free template. Everyone can view it on my site. So I follow that process. This is, I think, 288 or something like that points. So I go through that process, and this process always starts with manual review, the one I mentioned. And then the second thing is I go into Google Search Console and review every report there, and also Google Analytics. And these are like the first three things I do. And then I follow the checklist, which usually then starts with technical things like robots text, sitemaps, titles, other things like that. And once I have completed all of that, then I review the errors the tools are showing me, because maybe there is something I haven't covered and there is actually an issue.
About the template that you just mentioned, just a list of 200 and how many did you say? 200?
I think, because I've been updating it so many times that I don't even remember, but I think it is close to 300 points. So this is basically the list of things you should check when you do an audit. This is like in the form of a very, very long blog post. I think it is seosly.com/blog/SEO-audit. And this is basically it. A very famous template that.
All right. Yeah, so I'm happy that you spelled out the URL for our listeners. That's a good place to start. And I also was wondering if you have any other templates, because in terms of like collecting data, because when you want to launch the audit, you want to make sure that you have all the data from all the right sources connected. You don't want to miss out on a certain data point. Is there a way that helps you stay on top of all the data that is available for your website or a client's website?
Yeah, totally. So like managing those data sources like separately can be an issue. Maybe not an issue, but can be a little bit overwhelming. So I have my own Google Looker Studio template, which integrates data from Google Search Console, Google Analytics, and the rankings data from SE Ranking, because SE Ranking is my tool to go when it comes to checking and tracking ranking positions, because this is one of few tools which allows me to also track rankings in Bing and other search engines. And very often rankings in Bing are quite important, and if they are good, very often good rankings in Google follow. Like there is some relation, but I won't be like going into that route. So this template I created, I shared it like recently with my audience. The only thing they have to do in return to get that template is to subscribe to my newsletter, and then they get it for free. I think this is one of the most comprehensive free template, if not the most comprehensive, because it allows you to see like everything you need to know regarding positions, regarding keywords, regarding how your blog posts are performing, what's the keywords you're tracking in SE Ranking, how they are doing over time. You can easily like switch dates, compare periods. So for my kind of own needs as an SEO, independent SEO consultant, this is like complete and allows me and my clients to have the details and complete look of what's going on in terms of SEO on a daily basis.
Where can our listeners find this? Is it on the SEOSLY website?
You just go to SEOSLY website. I think it's in the blog section, but all you need to do is go to seosly.com, subscribe to the newsletter, and you will get it in an automated response.
Right, great. So we've talked about the process of conducting the audit, but I wanted to dive into once you have all the data, you know about all of the issues, you know how many there are on which pages. How do you go about implementing these changes, fixing everything? Basically, my question is, how do you decide the priority of which issues need to be fixed? And do you take into account the recent Google update, or is there a flow that you follow yourself, just giving your experience?
So generally, you want to divide the issues into how their priority and their urgency and how easy it is to implement them, because sometimes it may, in the case of a huge site, e-commerce site, getting one small thing done, which is not really that important, may take months. But there may be smaller things you can do which will take a shorter period of time, and they can have a bigger impact. So you need to assess what issues are critical and they are harming SEO right now. So these usually have to be taken care of in the first place. Then I always try to identify some quick SEO wins as a bonus, so that potentially the client can see some positive results sooner than later, because usually SEO takes a lot of time. And there is, of course, like things that are urgent, but which are not that, I would say, impactful. You can leave them for later until those critical ones and those possible quick wins are implemented. An example of a critical issue. So that was, I think, this happens very often, this one. So I got a client saying that they are not visible in Google for example, for their brand name. And they wanted me to do like branded type of research, what's going on, why their brand is not showing up. And the first thing I do, I realize that they have no index tag on their site. It is not the problem with their brand, but their site is blocked from indexing. So without like solving this one thing, there is no point in doing anything else, because the site is like invisible to Google kind of, and Google is not even like considering it for being shown in search results. So this is type of a critical thing. We need to remove the no index directive before we can continue with other types of things. Or there is, for example, a problem with redirections, like redirections are not working correctly. The return 404 and the site had recently had a migration, so this can be a total disaster. So those are examples of critical issues. An example of a quick win, which can be like easily implemented. We have a e-commerce website. On category pages, we have links to specific products. And those links, for example, go through the anchor of click here. So all the links basically are the same. Click here, the anchor is click here, which means those links carry absolutely no SEO value. And a quick fix for developers is to remove those click here links and make product names the anchor. And they can do it like within a line of code. And this can have really, really a huge impact on SEO, because now Google starts to understand what types of products they are, what keywords they should be associated with. So this can be a very powerful quick fix and something that is not really urgent. So, for example, structure of headings. It is okay, but you have one small thing, which is, for example, part of the footer where you have login. So your structure of headings is more or less okay, but you have this login as H5 added to every page. So this is important, but that is not something that would make or break the site, unless you can easily fix that. And because, for example, you may have a WordPress site, and this element may be marked as heading like automatically, and you don't have a developer, you cannot really change that, then you can ignore that for now and focus on creating, for example, more content, more keyword-focused content, because this is usually what pays out in the long run. New, great, people-focused, keyword-focused content.
So I wanted to think about the next process. So you have the audit. You run the audit, you found the issues, you told the team which issues need to be fixed first. What happens after a month? What happens after 2 months? How often do you check in to see if the suggested changes that were implemented made a positive impact, or whether they made a negative impact?
Yeah, sure. So again, this kind of depends on how long I cooperate with a given client, because there are some clients who just want the audit, they implement it, and we don't even talk later on. In most cases, I have recurring clients, so there is this feedback loop. So I have this spreadsheet with all the issues, priorities. I assign deadlines to each of them, of course, together with their team of developers. We talk about each point, when it can be done, whether there are issues in its implementation, and we usually review that every week, every 2 weeks, and like kind of update on the status. Of course, I also have a spreadsheet where I keep track of all the changes, like that on this date we fix that error, and then so that we can actually know whether those changes we did actually they impacted the improvements, or maybe they led to traffic drops. So this kind of spreadsheet, and I also always love to have the spreadsheet of all the URLs with their mapped keywords. So this is kind of the basis I always need to have. All the URLs with mapped keywords with their titles, and the columns where I put specific dates. And for example, that's on that date, I did this to that URL. So I kind of need to have those usually 2 or 3 central Google spreadsheets where I control everything. But those spreadsheets need to be like maintained on a very regular basis because they can easily get out of control.
Yeah. So yeah, it's not an easy process to just like every week, even if that happens, that's
Yeah.
oh yeah. 'Cause I was imagining like once a month is enough, but like
It depends, really. It depends on the client because sometimes developers don't even know how to implement changes, or they implement them in the wrong way, or they need 3 weeks. So it really depends. In an ideal situation, my client has a content team who is also like willing to, because there are always a lot of content content suggestions as well, and they have a team of developers who also like want to implement things relatively quickly without like kind of doing their own without consulting with me, because this is also very often the issue, that they do what they think is best, but they do not necessarily know the SEO side of things.
And yeah, so how easy is it to convince your clients specifically? Because obviously, if you're working on your own site, it's a matter of just giving the green light that this is supposed to happen. But what if it's a client's site? How much work do you have to put into convincing them that this like a huge change is going to pay off eventually? Is it a problem to convince clients to do this?
To be honest, so far I haven't really had a lot of problems with that, because usually because the way I built my kind of consultancy was by sharing my own kind of knowledge, experience, and all clients I have, they came to me because they knew they needed SEO, so they didn't really need convincing, and they already trust me with my decisions. So fortunately, in my situation, the way I set things up, I don't really need to do the convincing part a lot.
Yeah, right. So you set the tone from day one, so they already trust you, or like, what are you doing there if you have to convince them every day? Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, but from the old agency days, I know there was one trick we very often did, was if the client didn't want to implement something, we were sending him like every day the information that today you lost that many dollars because you haven't implemented that, and that sometimes worked.
We had a couple of events related to agencies and trying to figure out all the ins and outs of their processes to understand how everything works. And I just want to get your additional thoughts on the approach to having a sustainable website audit process for your clients, only in the points where it really differs from what we already discussed. But I wanted to get your thoughts on, for example, you have 10 clients, you have your own website, and you need to take care of everybody's audit. How do you manage that process when it needs to be scaled up a lot higher, a lot bigger?
To be honest, in the case of like my consultancy, I don't really do scaling. Like all the work is done either by me or by my business partner. So basically we do all that work. But the way I know this is usually done, you have to use a program like, for example, ClickUp or Trello or Asana. You can easily like create, I think in ClickUp is the best one. You can create those processes there, like what step needs to be taken as the first one, the second one. And you simply then train your SEOs, your VAs to simply follow those steps. And this way you can, for example, after some time, just review their work instead of like doing it all by yourself. Like without those types of processes, an agency with more than, I would say, 10 clients would be doomed to failure, because like there are so many moving parts, right? Yeah. So, but here, like the difference is that we want fewer clients, but we want to like take care of them from all SEO angles, which makes us like this boutique type of agency, if you will.
Yeah, because I was watching, going through your YouTube channel, and I saw that you had a chat with Miriam, and we actually had a course with her, and about promoting agencies, and that is why I wanted to sort of touch on that a bit more, because then also because you have experience working with the boutique consultancy, you don't just take it for the numbers. You want to help a specific client, and if you're not able to support them fully, you just don't take up another client. But still, is there like a process that helps you manage a lot more websites?
So the processes I have, I have a set of my own tools. The tools for example, like tracking rankings, like SEO ranking. I have this my template, which allows me to kind of take data from multiple sources. I have my own kind of boarding process of new client. I live in Google Sheets, so I have like everything there. Like I said, the central spreadsheet with URLs mapped with keywords for every client. The central spreadsheet with like other types of data for specific clients. I also do like weekly crawls, and I also keep them in a specific place for review. I have those alerts set up. For example, SE ranking can also alert me if there are some changes on the site. So there are a lot of tools I have already like set up, and they are simply like keeping an eye on things. I have those processes for SEO audits, for monitoring, for keyword checking, but there is still like, I don't know, 30, maybe more, 50% of this manual analysis and kind of reacting to what's going on and adjusting the SEO strategy, because SEO strategy in the case of each of my clients is different, because each client has like some different goals. So I cannot really do the same for each of them, even though there are a lot of similar things like creating new content or creating briefs for new content. I don't create content, but I can create content briefs for writers, for example. And in the case of some clients, I do changes on the website. In others, I don't touch their websites. So this is like very different in my specific case.
Well, yeah, the SEO is it depends is the most popular answer. So I was hoping that you were going to provide answers, but I was ready for it.
I can talk about what I did when I was working. I like for 7-8 years I worked at SEO agencies. In one of them, I was like the lead SEO auditor. So we also like had the template, we had the tools we were supposed to use. We had like the template, the ways in which we should provide suggestions, the way we should prioritize. And I was basically going through that exact template, the same exact tools each and every time I did an audit. So this was like at some point became very automatic for me because I knew this template so well. And I wasn't really going very much beyond that because like I had a limited number of hours to, for example, to spend on the specific audit. And here I am the one who decides how many hours are needed.
So you have a checklist for conducting SEO audits. So do you ever get thrown off by the news that Google has released a new update? Or do you just say that just follow your process and know that it's going to work? Or do you always take into account whatever Google has announced? Review your own process, because you said that you update your checklist. Yeah. So how big of an impact do updates actually have on your process of auditing websites?
So generally, I am an evangelist for SEO fundamentals, and I always want to have the SEO fundamentals taken care of well. And very often, in most cases, 90% of cases, I spend all of my time with clients just getting those fundamentals right, meaning like the content optimized, keywords mapped, titles, headings, table of contents, FAQs, internal linking. And before I even get to do that, usually the results come. Of course, I keep an eye on what's going on in SEO, because sometimes Google, announces there was this Core Web Vitals update 2 years ago. Everyone went crazy, me too, but it didn't really impact a lot of things. But I had to adjust at the time, thinking that it may be very, very impactful. So my templates, my approach is very, very much focused on SEO fundamentals, because still most of the sites I audit are lacking in some area of SEO fundamentals. And once they are done, we can think about bells and whistles and other types of things. And in most cases, Google doesn't really announce very groundbreaking things. They're simply focus more and more on on quality, on focusing on people, on generating or creating good content. So this is basically like usually the most important part.
All right, Olga. I'll just have one more question. If there's anything that we missed, if you have any suggestions for people who are considering auditing their website, maybe you have like a suggestion for people who want to think about considering manually auditing their website without any experience like you have, or turning to somebody else for help. Well, could you address these two scenarios? If somebody's interested in SEO audits, what would the process for them be? How difficult it would be for them if they wanted to learn it and master it themselves, or if they need to turn to a tool or a company for help?
So generally, I would say in the case of like less experienced folks, I would always start with Google documentation. There is this Google SEO starter guide that kind of contains all the information, basic SEO fundamentals I'm talking about. So I would study that guide and try to analyze each of the elements it talks about on your own website. There's also this advanced documentation, which like dives deeper into href tags or canonicals, stuff like that. So I also recommend reading that through and analyzing your site in this context. This will give you a lot of this fundamental knowledge. There are, of course, tons of tutorials on the internet on how to do an SEO audit. I would read the most famous ones and try to follow the process. And manually, you just have to, on my YouTube channel, I have a lot of live SEO audits. So you just have to learn this process. You open the site, you have a bunch of Chrome extensions that help you audit the site, and you simply like start browsing it, and you simply check it like on the go. Like you check, you display all the old text in one click. You display the structure of headings. You check title. You do it on like all manually on the spot. So there should always be those two elements: the manual one and the analytical automated one. So I wouldn't really split those two. So you have to do both. Study Google documentation, play with some SEO crawlers to get the data. GSC is an essential tool as well, and play with manual review of the site. This can be really a lot of fun.
Thank you. And I just came up with one more question: how important it is to educate your clients about SEO? Because if you would just be listing things to like my mother, Ahrefs, canonical, she would be like just nodding her head, not having an idea what you're talking about, but she would trust you because you're the professional. But how is it important for people to know what they're giving you specifically money for? Do you educate your clients before sort of putting pen to paper?
To be honest, I do this educational part as part of my like podcast, YouTube, but very often I try to like show them some examples that, for example, I very often refer them to Google documentation saying that, okay, see, Google is saying that this is important. So you have to really like believe me that this is something we actually want to do. So I think in the case of developers as well, if there is some like struggle, if you send them Google documentation, very often like the response will be more positive, because like Google they will have to trust Google if they don't trust me.
All right, Olga, thank you. This has been very informative. And I just want to sign off by saying that today, Olga Zarr shared with us her expertise on how digital businesses can build a website recovery roadmap so that their websites can bounce back from various Google updates. Thank you for your time, Olga, and be sure to subscribe and join the next episode of the Do Follow podcast. So
thank you so much. Yeah, thank you. It was it was a lot of fun. So yeah, thanks.
Same here. Looking
Bye.
forward to another time. Bye.